Hey there everyone, happy Friday and welcome to the Mylio Photos Coffee Break. My name is Angela and today we're going to be talking about ways to cull your images, basically the process of sorting through, finding the best ones, and techniques to make it an easy workflow that you can manage all year long. Before we dive into today's topic, I do want to let you know that every Tuesday and Thursday we have special sessions for live Q&As. These are Ask Me Anything sessions where you can drop in and bring questions about Mylio Photos, photo editing, family history, organization, even bring your questions about photo gear, photography, travel, any of that stuff. It's all kind of fair game. So make sure you come to those sessions, whether you're brand new with Mylio, you've been with us for a long time, every Tuesday and Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Fridays, we have these sessions and we dive into specific topics. Next week, we're going to go through Tune Up Your Library, a guided health check for your Mylio setup. Basically, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a few key things you can check inside the app to make sure things are working smoothly, that your files are where you want them to be, and just to make sure that you have an overall understanding of what Mylio Photos can do for you and how to make it work its best. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into today's session and talk about smarter culling for 2026. We're going to go into using flags and stars with confidence, and I'm going to share with you my workflow for running through images. So let's go ahead and get started. Excuse me. So the way I like to look at culling is it's about momentum, not perfection. What this means is you're not looking to make every final decision at that moment. You're looking to make progress. You want to make decisions fast. And this helps you later on because those fast decisions really guide what you do later on. At this point, we're not going to be going through and necessarily deleting anything. You're just making top level decisions so you can learn where to focus your attention. You're going to save that deeper judgment for later. And this rating system is going to support your action, not busy work. What we want to do is take fast decisions and then later on for those deeper, more thoughtful decisions, you've kind of narrowed down which images you want to focus on. So that's really the core of my philosophy and what we're going to go over today. So this is the basic workflow that I'm going to suggest for most people. First off, you're going to bring in your new images. So however you want to import into Mylio Photos, you're going to bring in a memory card, you're going to sync your phone, wherever your images are, bring in a new set of images, and then we're going to do a first pass with flags. So we can do this just from the grid view, from a folder, from anywhere in Mylio, or you can go into QuickReview mode, and I'll show you that here in a moment. And you're going to do picks and rejects. That's using the P for the pick key and X for the reject, and you're going to mark flags on your images. And this is going to give you kind of that first run through of what really needs your attention. Next thing we're going to do is clean up those rejects. So if you've gone through and you've flagged images as rejects, these are typically going to be, you accidentally took a picture of the ground, or it's really, really blurry and not worth saving. Awkward expressions. Actual true things you want to get rid of, we're going to clean those up, get them out of our library because we don't need that clutter. And doing this consistently as you bring in new media really helps keep things tidy. Later on, what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to find all those ones we marked as picks, the ones we want to give extra attention, and we'll do some light editing and make them look their best. Once we've done that, that's when I add star ratings. So once I've given them that level of attention, then I go through and I say, okay, which ones are worth adding stars to? Because I don't add stars to everything. That just takes way too much time. And so we're going to focus on 3, 4, and 5 stars. And then that's going to help us surface those best images that we want to publish or share or whatever we want to do with them. And this is a workflow that you can repeat with any set of images you bring in, whether they are from your phone, from a big camera, you're looking through family history stuff, whatever group of images you're bringing in, this is something you can repeat over and over. So first step is to bring in new images. Now, most of us are probably bringing in images from our phones. So that means turning on your phone, having Mylio open, letting those things sync to your computer or to whatever device that you're wanting to use. Mylio Photos has to be open and running on those mobile devices in order for sync to happen. So go ahead and open up your phone, let Mylio sync, bring in that new batch of images. If you're shooting with a mirrorless or DSLR camera, or even a point and shoot, grab that memory card, plug it into Mylio, and do an import. Get them into a folder, and you're going to go ahead and use that set of images that you're going to work on. So this is to work on a finite set of images for a specific purpose. And I like to do this incrementally as I bring new stuff in. Do it in batches. This is not something you necessarily want to do for your library as a whole. I would pick small little groups to work on at a time because it just gets a little too overwhelming if you try to do it all at once. So bring those new images in because you can't work with them if they're not in Mylio yet. The next pass here is to do flags. And I like to focus on pick flags and reject flags. And this is for marking images that have promise, things that I want to edit, photos that I like, anything that I want to revisit later. Again, this is high level, and those picks are really going to dictate what I spend my time on later. So this is about speed, and you want to have kind of just a yes or no. And you can have a maybe in there and just not give it any flags. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. So you kind of have three options here. Yes, maybe, no. And so pick flags. This is where I mark images that have promise. For me as a fine art photographer, these are things that I want to edit. I want to spend more time on. If I'm looking at my family photos, pictures of my cousin's kids at Christmas, these are going to be the pictures that have the best expressions, the photos that I like, those group photos that I want to share with everybody that I want to maybe give a little bit more attention to. Anything that I want to revisit later, I'm going to mark with that pick flag. And you're going to do that with a P key on the keyboard, or if you're on a phone and you're in quick review mode, you can do a swipe to the right. For rejects, I don't reject everything else. There's going to be things that just remain untagged. They're good pictures, but I'm not necessarily going to do anything with them. Rejects are for the things that I'm very likely going to want to delete. This is going to be if I accidentally took a picture of the ground, or, I imported a screenshot that I accidentally captured with my phone, or, I don't know, reference photo that I took at the big box store for something I was wanting to purchase. Those kinds of things, I'm going to mark those with that reject flag. And that's stuff that I'm going to take a look at briefly after this process. And anything that's truly junk, I'm just going to delete. So this is your first pass through to clear out some of that clutter before it gets deeply buried in your library. So before we go ahead and jump to reviewing rejects, let's go ahead and do a pass through here in Mylio. I have a set of images from my phone that I captured up in the Eastern Sierras late last year. I was out there with some friends, and I have just a handful of images that I want to go through and pick the ones that I want to do some additional work on. There's some stuff in here that's probably junk and can go away. So let's go ahead and run through these together. I'm going to go and click on the first image here in the set. And one of the easiest ways to do this is with QuickReview. Now you can just go through them this way. I could double click on it and look at one image at a time and then use the arrow keys on my keyboard. Actually, let me turn something on here to make this a little easier so you can see what keys I'm using. So I'm using just the arrow keys on my keyboard to go back and forth. So that is absolutely one way you can do this. You can use your keyboard shortcuts and move through your images this way. Another option is to use QuickReview. So if I go up here to the More menu in the upper right and go down to QuickReview here, this just puts me in a kind of minimal user experience where I'm really focused on the image. And then as soon as I add a flag to any one of my images, it'll automatically jump to the next image. So we're going to go ahead and do our first pass through here, and we're going to focus on those pick flags and those reject flags. And anything that I like, but I don't necessarily want to do anything with, we're going to go ahead and just not give it anything and use the arrow key on the keyboard to go to the next one. So this first image, I think this might be worth editing. I'm going to go ahead and hit P on the keyboard, and that's going to jump me to the next image. This is a fun shot, kind of background image. I like it. I'm not necessarily going to do anything with it. It's got my camera there in the foreground. My friends are over there in the distance taking their pictures. It's just kind of a fun memory shot, but I'm probably not going to publish this. Same goes with these two, just of my friends taking pictures. And then we get into some really cool stuff out at Bodie. So in this instance, I have actually some that are similar to each other. So again, I'm going to use those arrow keys on my keyboard to decide which one I want to focus on. Do I like that one or that one? I think I like this one better, so I'm going to hit a P on the keyboard for that. And I didn't mark the other one as a reject because it's not a bad photo. I'm just going to kind of leave that alone. And then same for this one. I've got this one and this one. I'm going to go ahead and hit the P key on the keyboard for this one. And I'm looking at the film strip there at the bottom also to kind of see what I have similar to it as I go through. This one I think is really cool. I'm going to hit a P on the keyboard for a pick. And pick. I like a lot of these images, so we're just going to kind of go through these really quick. And I think that one is pretty blurry, so I'm actually going to make that one a reject. So I'm going to hit the X key on the keyboard, and you'll see that it actually grayed out the image, and it put the little X on there, so you can see which ones I've rated by the little annotations here. And I do like this one, but I think it's really, really blown out. I'm going to leave that one alone. So again, we're just going to kind of pass through these really quick. And I'm taking a look at some of the similarities of these. So I like pretty much all of these. I'm just going to hit my P key on my keyboard. Here's a couple that are similar. Ooh, this one is definitely better. All right, let's see here. You can see just a slight shift there. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And that's pretty cool. Kind of cool. Oh, I like the focus on the book there. That one's unique, unique, unique. And this one, you know, it's really dark. I'm going to go ahead and skip over that one. This is a good memory shot, but it's not like it's anything worth editing. This one I took really late in the evening. It's really noisy. There's not going to be any saving this, so I'm going to actually mark those two as rejects. So there we go. I've gone through that entire set of images. I'm going to click the X key here to exit out of this mode, the G key to go back to my grid view, and now I have a list of images that I can do something else with. So jumping back over to the presentation, this is where we can review our rejects. So there's a couple of different ways to do this. I'm going to show you how I do my process, which is to go over here to the QuickFilters, go into by rating, label, and flag, and I'm going to click on the X, and that's going to show me all of the ones that I've marked as rejects. And as I look through these, I definitely want to delete these two because they're not any good. This one here, I think that one was pretty bad too. So what I can do here is I can just select these and hit delete on my keyboard and delete from all devices. The other thing you can do is from any view, you can go up to the photo menu, or actually I believe it's the organize menu, and just choose delete rejected photos. So from whatever view you're in, it's going to select all of those rejected images and allow me to delete them from all my devices. So I just did a nice little bit of cleanup. And now when I go back and I turn off that filter, all I'm left with for that day are the ones that are either unflagged or flagged as pics. So doing that extra step to review and clean up those rejects definitely will save you time down the road, and it keeps your library a lot more organized. So the next thing to do is work the pics. There were several that I marked as ones that I wanted to focus on and give more attention to. So that's what we're going to do next. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back over here to Mylio, and we're going to use these same quick filters. And this time I'm going to filter for my pics. And you can see that brought me to just looking at those images that I marked as having the most promise. Now, there are several different ways you can do this. You can edit here in Mylio. We've got some great editing tools that you can get into and work your images. You can use Photoshop and Adobe Camera Raw. You could use Luminar Neo. Just for the sake of quick and easy, what I'm going to do today is use Radiant Photo because it gives things a really nice pop, helps me work through them quickly, and then I can save them right back to Mylio very easily. So what I'm going to do is just do a Command or Control A to select all, and then I'm going to go up here to my photo menu and choose Open with Radiant Photo 2. You can also go here to Open with and open any other editor you have on your computer. So let me just go ahead and do Open with Radiant Photo 2. I'm going to prefer my RAW and click Continue, and that's going to go ahead and open up Radiant, and I can go ahead and do any external edits to make my images look their best before I go on to the next step in the process. So we'll give that a moment to load. And the cool thing about this is I can load them all up at once. I can make a few edits. I can synchronize those edits across the entire batch, saving a ton of time, and then be able to save those changes right back to Mylio. So here we go. Almost there. It's just loading stuff up there. There we go. There's the first one. And I'm going to load up the film strip here at the bottom so I can see all of my images. And usually when it loads up, it's going to load it with this little slider here in the middle. So you can see automatically what it's done to each image. I'm going to move that to the side and just take a look. So that's a nice improvement. This one here, yeah, I'd say that's looking pretty good. And I'm just going to quickly run through these and make sure they're looking the way that I want them to. And I can do any list of refinements that I want to these. I can sit here and do some really detailed edits. I can add some creative touches, all of those kinds of things. But this is making my images look really a lot better with minimal effort here. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. Just look through these. These all look pretty good. I'm very happy with this actually. And these are just raw images off of my phone that I've gone in and I've just opened them here in Radiant and it's done a nice pop. So you can spend as much time editing here as you want. What I'm going to do is then go up here to save all. And I'm going to click on the little sliders here so I can make some choices. I want to make sure they're saved back to the same folder as the original. And I want to save them with underscore display. What this tells Mylio to do is stack them with the original. So you're only seeing one version of your image in Mylio. Your original raw is still preserved. It's still there. It's still syncing to all your devices, but you're going to be seeing this display image, which is your edited version. You can choose to do this as a TIFF or a JPEG, depending on what you're wanting to use them for. If this is for my fine art work, I'll typically do a TIFF. If it's for just sharing pictures with family and friends, I'll just usually do a JPEG. Neither one is a wrong answer. It's just a matter of what you want to use it for. I'm going to go ahead and keep my color space and then hit save. And that's going to go through and process those files and take them back into Mylio Photos. So we'll give that a moment to run and then we'll jump back to Mylio and take a look at the next steps. So let me go ahead and jump back over here to the presentation. We've worked our pics and now we can move forward with that. The next step is going to be to add stars. And I really only focus on 3 through 5 stars because 1 and 2 really don't seem like they're worth the time. If it's a 1 or a 2 star image, unless there's something those particularly represent for you, I really wouldn't mess with them too much. So what I do is I use 3 through 5 to indicate my absolute best. If it's a 1 or 2, they just don't move on to the next step. So 3-star images are the ones that I think are really good. I typically want to share those. I might share them on social media. I might post them to my blog. They tell a story. They're fun images. 4 stars are ones that are really good. I think they have a lot of promise and I like them better. I think they're maybe more technically sound. They tell a better story. And then anything that's a 5-star is my absolute best. These are the ones that I want to jump to when I'm looking to really filter the cream to the top and get those absolute best images. But keep it simple and intentional when you're adding these stars. And that's going to, again, make this process easier. So let's go ahead and jump back over here to Mylio. And hopefully our edits are coming back in. There we go. They're starting to come back through. And what we can do is we can go through them one at a time using the arrow keys on our keyboard like we did before. We're looking now at the edited versions. You can see there's my DNG original. There is my JPEG and there's my XMP metadata file. So those files are all now stacked together and I can go ahead and run through these this way. And again, you can use those keyboard shortcuts. I could go back into QuickReview if I wanted to do it that way, but I'm going to go ahead and go back to my grid, go back to the first one, and we'll just do it from this view. And I'm going to use the 3, 4, and 5 numbers on my keyboard to go ahead and set these. And then I'm going to use the arrow keys to move to the next image. This I think is a nice image. It's not amazing, but I'm going to go ahead and give that a 3. So it's a good image. This one I like pretty well. I'm going to give that a 4. I'm going to give that one a 3. This one I'll give a 4. This one I think is actually, it turned out really good. I'm going to give that a 5. We'll give that a 3. And I'm going to go with a 4 on that one. 4, actually, and this is where you can start to kind of second guess yourself. I'm going to go back to this one here. I don't like this one as much as the next one. So I'm going to go back and change that to a 3. We already rated this one, so let's go ahead and keep going. We'll give that one a 3. A 3. That one I think is kind of cool. I'm going to give that a 4. I really like this one. I'm going to give that a 5. We'll give that one a 3. 3. And again, we're making those fast decisions as we go through and we're adding that additional context. If there's anything here that you think is worth a 1 or a 2, you can certainly type in a 1 or a 2 on the keyboard. I'm just really not sure it's worth the time to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and just, that one I think is a 4. I like that. 3. Ooh, that one's pretty nice. 4 and 4. And then we're on to the next day. So there we go. I have now run through those and I've given those all star ratings. So I've taken that full set of images, I narrowed them down to the pics, and now I've narrowed them even further with those 3, 4, and 5 stars. So that just gives me additional context and I can do more with these images and find and surface them later when I want to do something with them. So the next is to use those quick filters again to surface those best images. I'm going to go ahead and jump back over here to Mylio, and I'm going to take off that pick flag. And let's say I just want to find my 4 and my 5-star images. I can go in here and click on my 4s and 5s. And again, that narrows down the field. So I'm only looking at specific images and I'm looking at the best of the best. And these are the ones that I'm most likely going to want to take and share, post to my blog, post to social media. If it's family stuff, I'm going to share them in that family group text. But this way you've gone through and you've gone from this large number of images and pulled it down to a very reasonable amount. So the next thing to do is to share. And this is where the stars help you decide where to spend your energy. For the family photos, go ahead and create a shared album. So gather them up, put them into an album in Mylio and click share. That way you get a link that you can go ahead and hand off to that group text or to specific family members who you want to have those images. If you're a fine art photographer and you're creating stuff that you really want to share in that regard, you're going to take these images that have those 4 and 5 stars and you're going to put them on your blog. You're going to put them on social media, on your online portfolio, wherever it is that you like to share your stuff. So let's go through like what I would do for a family album here. I'm going to jump back here to Mylio. I'm going to grab these images. Again, I'm going to do a Command or Control A to select everything. And then I'm going to right click on this and say Add to Album. And then I can go here into, let's say, my demos. Actually, let's just, demos, new album, and we'll call this Bodhi and create. So there's my Bodhi album. I'm going to continue. And now I can go over here to my albums. And there's Bodhi right here. And I can use this to create a shared album. I can publish this. So let's go ahead and do that really quick. Agree to the terms of service and the right to publish. This means that I own the content, it's my images, and I have permission to publish them. So I'm going to go ahead and say continue. I'm going to use a dark theme. I don't want these to be downloadable. If it's family pictures, you might want them to be. I want to include my watermark, and I want to include specific metadata. So this is all really good. I'm going to go ahead and click out of that and say share, and that's going to create that non-indexed sharing link that I can take and put into a text message or wherever it is that I want to share these things. And this is also useful if you're a professional photographer or fine art photographer. You can take this link, you can share that on social media too if you want. It's just a matter of how widely you want these links to go. They are up to you how you use them. And when I say they're non-indexed, that means they never go to the search engines unless you take that link and you put it in the search engine. Mylio will never do that for you. So it is what we call semi-private. And this is a great way to share things. So I now have this URL. I can go ahead and open it up and take a look at these images as anybody that I shared this link would have. And there's all my edits. They look great. And I can go ahead and share that out with anybody. So let's go ahead and jump back over to Keynote. And the reason I like this system is because it works and it's repeatable. And I've been using this particular system for a very long time. Once you get comfortable doing that first pass, making clear decisions, using minimal ratings, they become super easy to retrieve later. And you can use them for a wide variety of different goals. Let's see what's down here jumping. Oh, it's radiant jumping. There we go. Get rid of that little jump. This is just a very nice, repeatable system that I think anybody can use for a wide variety of circumstances. And it's just a great path to use all year long for every project. Use those flags first. P for pick, X for reject. Those are your keyboard shortcuts for using flags. Use your stars later. You can use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on your keyboard to add a star rating. And then when you're ready to find things to share, you've got your quick filters, filter to the flags, filter to the rejects, get rid of those, clean those out of your system, free up that clutter, and then use those 4 and 5 stars or even 3s, depending on what you want to do, your 3, 4s, and 5s, to filter that down and find those absolute best to create that album, share it out, and get those out to the people that really want to see it. And the nice thing about that is people do want to see pictures from your trips. They want to see pictures from those family gatherings. But if you're a bit, crazy with the shutter like I am, I take a lot of pictures. Not everybody wants to see hundreds of pictures. They want to see those 5 to 10 best. And this is a great way to narrow it down and be able to share only those best things. Just a reminder then that we will have live Q&A next week, every Tuesday and Thursday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Hope you guys will join me for that. We can talk more about photo editing. We can talk about photo gear. We can talk about travel. Of course, organization, Mylio specific things are always welcome as well. So please join me for those sessions. Next week, we'll do Tune Up Your Photo Library on Friday. And just some things you can look for in your library to make sure things are running well, that your vaults are where they need to be, you have your backups secured. We're going to go through just kind of a health check to make sure everything is in good shape for 2026. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. Thank you, Lori, for sharing all of the links and making sure I don't miss anybody's questions. Always appreciated. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.